Yes? Okay, I think I'm good. It is a delight to have you at Stones Hill Community Church. I'm Pastor Joey, and it's a privilege to welcome you to Baptism Day. It's a special day for all of us. For those of us who are being baptized, it's a special moment where we put a stake down in our spiritual journeys. And for those of us who are here in attendance just to witness it, it's a special day too, because you're here to see God at work in the lives of individuals and families. And so we're going to have children and adults today who are being baptized. And perhaps there are some of you here who have never taken this step of baptism. And if you would be interested in pursuing this, then at the end of the baptisms that we have scheduled today, you'll have an opportunity to also come forward and to experience baptism. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. There's actually a lot of things that we could say about baptism, and a lot of things that we actually had planned for this day. And it's a special time for a number of reasons. I know when the New Testament talks about believing, and it talks about believing a lot actually, the next normative discipleship step that is assumed is that if you believe, then you would take this step of baptism. It's the first discipleship step that we take in our spiritual journey upon believing. And so the way the New Testament writers framed the issue was, oh, you believe? Okay, where's the water? And so there was never really a probationary period. Let's wait a year, let's wait 5 years, let's wait 10 years to see if your belief sticks. No, it was you believe? Okay, let's where's the water? Let's visualize your old life washed away and your new life that's come. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I love baptism for that reason. You know, you can come to church, and if it's not raining, you don't get wet, right? You come to church, you're here and you leave, and you hear things sometimes. Sometimes you taste things in communion, and that's good. Sometimes you feel handshakes and hugs, and that's good, right? Sometimes we smell things. Hopefully it's good things, all right? Good things when you come to church, but especially on Baptism Sunday, I put frankincense and myrrh on the handkerchief, and I actually put this over the candidate's mouth and nose. So like I get it like this, and I'll get the back of their head and a nice firm grasp, and then I'll put the handkerchief over their mouth and nose, and I'll pinch a little bit. And if they don't fight me when I take them under, it goes really good. I go under and then right back up, and it's all good. No one's coughing and sputtering and spitting. And it's a wonderful moment in time that we all celebrate. If they fight me a little bit and I lose my grip, it could be a little different story. The good thing is, someone asked me this morning, what's your record? You know, are you batting 1,000 on these baptisms? In other words, has anyone drowned since you've been doing this? I got it. I understand the question. No one has ever drowned since I've been conducting baptisms. You don't have to worry. It's all good. So it smells good. It looks good. It sounds good. You experience the water. You're underwater. You're back up. It's multi-sensory. It's meant to kind of jolt you awake to a new reality. Do you need jolted awake to a new reality? Have you just done the humdrum thing of life day in and day out, not really thinking much about your spiritual life, not thinking about your walk with the Lord and what that might mean, and identifying with Him and His body in a new, fresh way? Maybe that's kind of your MO. That's kind of how you've operated in your life. Well, today is the day, and maybe it's time for you to step out and identify with Christ in a brand new way, and identify with the new life that comes. Baptism is a picture. It's a picture where we take you down under the water, and that's your old life, and we bury that. And when we take you down under the water, and you're going to look up, and the last thing you're going to see is that guy right there smiling at you on the screen. All right? That's me. That's one of our other baptisms where a guy had a camera on his head, and we were able to video that. Bob kind of set that up. Bob Lord, and we really appreciate that. And so this is kind of what you're going to see, the last thing Okay, there I am. All right, you're underwater. You're encased in a kind of a burial. You're in a spiritual tomb, as it were, and you're buried, and the old life is kind of in the murky abyss, right? And then just like in that creationary week in Genesis 1, what does God do? He speaks order and he speaks structure into the chaos. And from that watery abyss, out of that comes life and order and sunrises and sunsets and seasons, 4 seasons in fact. And we have this wonderful world that we all enjoy as a result of that. Well, that's what God is doing when we look at Baptism Day and we picture it and we try to understand the angles of it, is that we bury the old life of chaos, the watery abyss, and we bring you up into a new life of structure and order and blessing and guidance and appreciation for what God is up to in the world. And I think maybe there's some of you that want to be a part of that today. And maybe you came to church without really expecting to be a part of it. But maybe at the end of the service today, you'll be ready to be a part of it. In fact, there are like 3 analogies that I like to share with people when it relates to Baptism Day. Okay? The first analogy is it's flag at the top of the pole day. Flag at the top of the pole day. I like to think of baptism that way. You know, some people keep their faith neatly folded and they bring it out on special occasions. Maybe it's a holiday and I'll get my flag and I'll put it up for the holiday, and when the holidays pass, well then I'll take it back down and I'll fly under a different flag. Some people approach the spiritual life that way. They approach the Christian life that way. But when we talk about baptism and we talk about the flag at the top of the pole day, it's a day where we say, you know what? It doesn't just have to be a holiday for me to be a Christ follower. It doesn't have to be some special occasion like Christmas or Easter for me to be a Christ follower. Okay, a Creaster, right? It doesn't have to be anything special. You know what? I'm following Christ 365, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 360. Is there 365 days in a year, right? I'm still right on that? Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, thank you for the technical contribution. Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is what Baptism Day is about flag at the top of the pole. I have decided to fly under the banner of Christ, and I don't really take my gauges or readings from culture to determine when that's okay and when it's not. No, I'm flying under the banner of Jesus for the rest of my life. I am endeavoring to understand life in a Christian worldview, and I'm going to endeavor to live that out every day that I live. And that's to put the flag at the top of the pole day. Now, some of us here, in fact, all of us here, have flown under the allegiance of other banners. Maybe the flag that we put at the top of the pole has a big dollar sign on it, right? We know what that looks like, a big dollar sign. And we fly under that flag. And boy, everything in life is going to be defined by that flag. If I have enough of it, if I want more of it, how that's going to go in my life, where that's going to put me in life, I'm going to fly under the big dollar sign flag. Some of us have done that in life. Some of us, what is it, the Summer of Love emblem, a tie-dye flag maybe, okay, back in the 70s. We fly under the Summer of Love. It's all about love. It's all about sharing love, having love, falling in love. In fact, we're in love with being in love. Okay, we don't just romance, we're in love with falling in love and romancing. And so this is just who we are. And some of us are going to define everything in life by that relationship. Whether she likes me or whether he likes me or they don't. And if they don't like me, if they don't love me, then I don't know what my identity is. I don't know where I'm headed in life. Some of us have flown under that Summer of Love flag. And you just name your idol. I don't know. It could be anything in your life. You can fly under a lot of different flags of identity. You might have rainbow flags and you're going to identify with a certain movement. You may have a sports team flag and that's going to come out every day. And in fact, if you don't fly the Colts flag, Lord will forgive you for that. It'll be okay, and we'll let you pray here at the end of the service today. Some of you just turn me off. Like, oh, that's it. I'm not, no, Come on now. We all have our idols, right? We all have the things in our life that we think are really is going to define everything else. Okay? And we'll fly under that flag. And you name it. You put on your flag in your mind, you put on your flag what it is you think it is in your life. And that could be any number of things. You know what I'm asking you to do today? I'm asking you to go out in your mind, and in this ceremony we call baptism, I'm asking you to get up, look at that beautiful sunshine, walk out that front door, go out to that flagpole and say, today's your last day, buddy. You're coming down. I'm hoisting a new master. That $sign flag, get that, put that in the corner. We're putting Christ at the top of this pole. Honey, are you with me? Yeah, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. You guys with me? Yes. This is Lower the Flag Day. One life is gone. A new life has come. We got a new identity. That's what I'm asking you to do today. To walk out, change the flags, and fly under a new allegiance. Okay? And you know what? The book of Hebrews is about this. The book of Hebrews, the whole book, is about a group of Christians who had done that. They had walked out. They had lowered the old flag of whatever it is was their idol, and they had put Christ up. And then you know what happened? Just like is going on in Iraq today. Just like today, the Islamic militants are painting Arabic ends on houses that are Christian so that they can be either executed or destroyed. It's going on today. Hundreds, maybe even thousands are being persecuted today. And it was like that in the time when the book of Hebrews was written. And you know what they were doing? They were going out to their Christian flags, let's say, and they were saying, well, times are hard. Let's take down our banner of Christ. Let's put up a new flag. A flag that they'll see is okay. The militants will see as okay. Then we won't be persecuted. And then when all this passes, then we'll go sneak back out some dark night and we'll put up the Christ flag again. And we'll fly under Jesus, right? That's what's going on in the book of Hebrews. All right? And the Hebrew writer gives these warning passages and says, not so fast. Because what I want you to do is I want you to put the Christ flag up, and I don't care who's in power. I don't care what's going on in the world. I want you to fly under Christ and make him your leading passion. All right? And by the way, we need to pray for that situation in Iraq. It's really, really sad to see and to think that people, even children, are losing their lives due to an identity with Jesus. All right? Let's pray for them. And then, so I think today is a day where we put the flag at the top of the pole day. Second analogy I would give to you is the analogy of get off the fence day. That's what this is about. It's get off the fence day, right? When we think of someone who sits on the fence, we think of someone who hasn't made up his or her mind, right? And when we sit on the fence regarding Christ, it's as if we're delaying a decision, one that we know we need to make. But we're going to sit on the fence a little while longer. We're going to analyze this a little while longer. We're going to try to remain neutral here on the fence for a while. We don't want to commit to anything radical, do we? We don't want to get involved in some cult or some weird religious group. No, well, let's just sit on the fence for a while. Yeah, there's evidence for Jesus, and there's extra biblical sources that talk about the living Christ, and there's other sources with no vested interest in the Christian cause who mention a resurrected Savior and things, and there's secular historians that mention this group of people called Christians that meet together at dawn and sing a song, a hymn to Christ as God. Yeah, there's stuff like that, but let's delay the decision. Let's not make a decision today. I'm not ready to make this decision. Let's ride the fence a little longer. Right? And we've all been there. We're all familiar with fences. We live in northern Indiana. We live with fences. Fences are our lives, right? And they come in all shapes and sizes. And I have to admit that there is a time to sit on the fence. There is a time to evaluate. There is a time to adjust the brim of your Stetson, chew on your stalk of straw, and think it over with a buddy to help you make sense of the data and the decision that needs to be made. There's a time to sit on the fence. And there's also a time to get off the fence, to come down in a realm. If I come down on this side of the fence, I know who my master's going to be. I know what that's going to mean. And I am ready. I'm so ready for a brand new creation, a brand new way of doing life. I'm going to come down on this side of the fence. Or some of us have decided we'll come down on the other side of the fence. And we're not really ready for this thing called Christ yet. And we're going to come down on the old side of the fence we've always come down on. I'll fly my own flag. I'll do my own deal. The church, Bible, Jesus, religion, God, there's plenty of time for that later if I want to go that path. But now, I don't think I'm going to go that route. And so we sit on the fence and we evaluate our options. And we know that if we come down on the Christ side of the fence, it's going to necessitate some discipleship decisions that we need to make in our life. We know that on the other hand, if we come down on the old side of the fence that we've always come down on, we're going to have broken marriages to deal with, probably. We're going to have some addictive behaviors we have to deal with, probably. We're going to have wasted opportunities, and God knows we're all in this together. We'll have parental messes and things. When we choose any other worldview other than that which is espoused by, lived by, demonstrated by a living Christ, we suffer many times the consequences of that alternative view. And we all know this. And so this morning, the decision that I have here in front of you, not only do I want you to walk out and say, honey, we're going to lower one flag, we're going to put up another one, are you with me? Okay, and we've got some guys doing that today in baptism. But it's also an invitation for you to get off the fence day. You've evaluated things long enough. It's time to get off the fence. You've loved everything else in life that you've wanted to love. And it's time to love the Lord. This morning, I would take you to the Gospel of John. Just as Hebrews illustrates the first analogy, the whole Gospel of John illustrates the second analogy. And that is that John says, I want you to do one thing for me. If you don't do anything else in your life, would you do one thing for me? Would you hear me out on the Jesus story? And would you do one thing? Believe. That's John's key word. Would you believe? Would you believe? Would you place your trust in? It's not just an intellectual sterile assent. It is a placing of one's trust in a Savior who can take us through life, who also takes us not only through life, but prepares us for the life to come. And to really understand what life is about. Will you believe? Will you get off the fence? Will you climb off of that thing and say goodbye to the old way and the old realm and the old side of the fence and get off on the other side of the fence where there's a new life that awaits you? I think a third analogy that we can look at, it's a flag at the top of the pole day. It's a get off the fence day. And then finally here this morning, it's a get in the game day. It's a get in the game kind of day. And those of you who have played sports, and those of you who have hung around here for very long, and those of you who know me, I'm a sports kind of guy. I've played sports a lot in my life. I love competition. My whole family loves competition. I can remember playing Nerf football in the cornfield. A little corn was not really a field, it was more of a garden, and my dad would grow corn. And boy, if you play tackle football in a field that's been harvested of corn and those little stalks are still sticking up, woo! That'll wake you up in a hurry, especially when you have a brother that really doesn't care how bad it hurts when you're tackled, right? I love sports, football, basketball, baseball, all of them, It's just fun to cheer, and it's fun to have somebody in it to cheer for. It's fun to get in the game. My problem when I was younger, I wasn't big enough. I was like, I know it's hard for you to believe maybe now, because I'm 200 plus. Yes, pure muscle, right? Okay, yeah, table muscle too. Okay, but 150, 155 pounds, soaking wet, senior in high school, had some good juke. Oh, had some good juke. Just a little quick, I don't know, just God-given. So I had a measure of success in my sports that way, with a little bit of the juke. But the problem is, you can only juke so many guys for so long. And then about 200 and 210 pound catches up to you in a hurry. Okay? And when they get you corralled, you're in trouble. All right? Well, I always wanted to get better. And so I did all that I could to get better. And some of you can relate to what I'm talking about. You know, you've been on a team and you've not been a starter. And you've worked hard. You go to camps in the summer and try to get better. Sometimes you'll watch videos on YouTube of guys that'll show you techniques. Maybe you're a baseball catcher. Some of you have been baseball catchers before, and you've gone to camps and things to try to figure out how you can what they call pop time, where you can catch the pitch and all in one motion come up, and the arm, the elbow and the arm by the ear, and throwing the guy out at second. Little things you can do to help reduce the chances somebody's going to steal on you, right? That's the little things you can do. Maybe you're a volleyball player and you're going to try to defend a kill. Somebody's going to come up for the kill and you're going to come up with a defense that can defend that. And you'll learn techniques to help you with that and help you get better. And the thing is, when you learn these techniques, you learn them for a reason. That is, you want to be on the starting team. You want to be ready. Hey, how many of us go to camps? How many of us watch sports movies or whatever? How many of us do team sports because we want to sit on the pine? Anybody do a team sport because you want to sit on the bench all the time? I remember Ralph in Happy Days. Remember Ralph in Happy Days? Yeah, Ralph and Potsy and Richie Cunningham. And Ralph never got to play. He never got to play in any of the basketball games. So he would put his warm-up jacket and sweats over his jeans and shirt and go to the basketball games. He never got to play until one day somebody got hurt and they called for Ralph to go in the game, and he took his sweats off. He had his jeans and shirt. I was like, Coach, I never get to play. Man, I just come like I always do. I never get in these games, right? Well, none of us like the idea of working hard, of getting a better skill set, of improving our game in such a way that we eventually get to start on a team. We don't do that because we enjoy riding the pine. We do it because we want to get in the game. We want to get in the game, man. This is what I've trained for. I want to make a contribution. I'm ready to do something with the talents I've been given. And maybe that's your story here today. There's a guy by the name of Steve Weaver. I don't know, is Steve here today? He's usually here, and he's an announcer here for our varsity sports games and other games as well. But he's told me before that there are guys that will come up to him and say, Steve, I remember back in my football years, and I remember coming up Charger Hill, and I getting ready for the big game on Charger Field there. And I remember you calling out my name, and they said, I still get chills when I think about hearing my name called on that speaker and getting ready for the action. And it still gets them an adrenaline pump because they just know, they associate it with a moment when they're going to be able to throw it down and say, okay, let's go head to head. Let's see who's the best, and let's get after it. And it kind of just resurrects all those feelings. And they come, every time they see Steve, they think about that moment. And I think about the book of Romans and how the book of Romans argues for the fact that you're called, you've been chosen. In fact, I could say that this morning. You've been called, you've been chosen. Not everybody in this community is here at Stonestill Community Church, but you are. You're one of the special ones. Why? You've been called. Not that we're that much special than everybody else. We maybe do things a little differently than other people, but you've been called. You're the privileged ones, Paul teaches in Romans. Now you've been called. What have you been called to? You've been called to engage and be in the game, and he gives a list even of spiritual gifts later in the book of Romans. Here's how you can contribute. Get off the bench, get in the game, make a difference. That's what baptism is about. You see, there's one this morning who's been calling out your name for a long time. He's been saying things like, why are you still on the sidelines? You've listened to preaching all your life. You've gone to church maybe most of your life. You've been kind of a religious person most of your life. You've talked about the issues. You sat on that fence that Pastor Joey's talking about, and you talked to Granddaddy and Grandmama about some stuff, and you've done that before, and it's been kind of your lifelong pattern. You're not really that bad of a person if you really consider all the things that a person could be in life. You're actually a pretty good person, pretty good neighbor. Good fences make good neighbors, and boy, you've been a good neighbor over the years. Problem is, you're still on the fence. You never gotten off of it. You're still halting between two opinions. You have all this talent and ability, but you're not coming to the game ready. You have this new identity available to you in Jesus, but you're not willing to lower the old flag and put up a new one. You're on the fence this morning, but someone is calling your name, and they're calling you to engage in the battle. And just like Steve announces and calls people's names and calls them out into the battle, you've been called out into the battle today. Why not give it all you've got? If you're going to show up, compete with fervor, man. Give it all you got. If you're going to do this thing called life, why not give it all you've got? If you're going to do this thing called the Christian life, why not give it all you've got? Why not anchor down with a group of believers who will, in a visionary kind of way, guide you through the formation of spiritual life inside you? Why not engage in the battle in a level that encompasses the full use of all of your gifts and abilities? Why not engage with others who will challenge you to up your game, who will give you a high five on occasions, who will also experience some victories with you, but who also will not abandon you when you experience defeat? Why not get off the bench and in the game? What's holding you back? Those are the three analogies I think that work today that I think will help you understand what we do here in baptism, because baptism is about getting off the bench and in the game. Here I am. I'll make a contribution. I'll make this place a better place. I'll engage in the battle. I'll get us some wins. Give the ball to me. Give it. Get on my back. We're going to the end zone. All right? I'll be that kind of person. That's what baptism is about. Give me the ball. You do your assignments, I'll get us there. That's what it's about. Church, come together. Come together and offer your abilities, your enablements and spirit giftings and things to the use of the body. And then it's also about getting off the fence. All right? Don't worry about what someone else thinks about where you're going to come down on the side of the issue. Don't worry about where others think you're going to be on whatever side of the fence, okay? That's not the issue. The issue is you're being called to something, and that's a devoted spiritual life, a fully devoted followership of Jesus. You're being invited into that. And the question is, are you going to heed the call? Are you going to get off the fence today? And then finally, it's the flag at the top of the pole day, okay? Flag at the top of the pole day, okay? You've played that role of kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of role in life, and what Paul and what really all the New Testament writers invite us to do is fully identify with Christ. How to identify with Christ? Well, you say, Lord, I believe in you, and I receive the forgiveness you've offered for the world. I receive it personally today. And because that guy up there talking, I am now convinced I need to do something about in my faith journey, and I'm going to be baptized. I never came to church expecting to be baptized, but today I'm going to be baptized. That's what I'm going to do. Well, what will your wife think? It doesn't matter right now. Okay, you get home in a few minutes, then it'll matter. All right? All right? What will my husband think? Well, it doesn't matter right now. Okay, what my neighbors think? What about the guy across the church? The guy up there. He thinks I cheated him and did him a bad deal. What will he think if I go up and get all spiritual on him? It doesn't matter what he thinks right now. What matters is Jesus who he said he was? Okay. Are you living a biblical worldview that'll lead you to life? that'll help you bring restoration in all areas of your life? No, you're not. Okay. Do you need help in your life? Do you need a companion to guide you through life? Do you need insights and wisdom in life? Okay. You're ready. Would you like to identify with Jesus? Well, you want to put the flag at the top of the pole? I'll be the first in line to baptize you. Okay? You want to come down on the right side of the fence, the Christ side of the fence? Yes, sir. You're ready? Okay? You'll put that little C on your life for Christian, and you're going to wear that well. You're going to wear that. It doesn't matter who ISIS, whoever wants to come along and demolish that. We're not worried about that. It's who we are. It's who we are in good and bad times. You ready? Okay? You ready to get in the game? To engage the abilities? You've rode the pine for too long, man. We need your contribution. Some of you got some three-pointers you got to hit, some touchdowns you got to get, some kills you got to get on the volleyball court, some holes in one, all right? Some pins, all right? You're ready. You're ready. Why don't you take a step today toward the Savior? You know, one of the joys I have of in ministry is I get to see people experience God's forgiveness and see them restored to all they created them to be. And I'll be talking a little bit more about our vision next week. But I get to see this up close and personal. And there's a guy that's going to be baptized today. And usually what I do is I'll just kind of listen to the Spirit on things. And usually someone will circle around to me and they'll have questions about baptism. And that's usually what the Holy Spirit uses to let me know it's time for SHCC to schedule baptism. And this is what happened in this case. I think the Holy Spirit deals with a lot of people that way, but some of them don't verbalize it as much, and usually one steps forward and verbalizes it, and then we get it planned, and the others like, oh yes, the Lord, okay, this is my time. And it works like that a lot. And there's a guy that's been coming here for several Sundays, and he came up one Sunday several months ago, and he says, you know, I've been coming here for a while now, and I love being here at Stones Hill. And by the way, this is my wife-to-be, and he introduced Josie to me. And then I typically tell people when they come up and want to meet me for the first time, maybe they've been here for a few weeks or months or whatever, and I just typically tell them, hey, just come 3 or 4 months. You'll get a feel for how I preach and teach the Bible verse by verse. You'll get a feel for what Bible exposition is and how that works in your life. You'll also meet some friends. You maybe even see some co-workers, and you'll get to know them a little bit better. You'll see activities and things that are offered and things, and you'll just kind of get familiar with the overall culture and environment of Stones Hill. So just come for a little while, and you'll be. Well, I was going into that spiel with this our baptism candidate I'm talking about. I was going into that spiel with him. He's like, dude, this is where I belong. This is where I want to be. I don't need another week or a month or more months. This is where I want to be. I've been coming now for weeks. I love it here. And he said, you know, I noticed you did baptism one weekend, and he said, that's something I want to do. I'm getting married at the end of August. And I want to start this thing right because, I want to be a good husband and everything, but I just think it's right time for me to take this discipleship step with Christ because I want him to be at the center of everything I am and do. And so I'm interested in baptism, and so a few weeks later, I messaged him back on Facebook, hey Bruce, we've set a baptism date. Are you still on? Are you still wanting to be baptized? He fires back, yeah. He says, I want to be baptized, and I'm excited about it. I'm ready. He's ready to get in the game. I like it. He's ready. I put the flag at the top of the pole. Get off the fence. Time for me. I am ready. I've been ready. It can't get here soon enough, right? Well, a few weeks after that, hey Bruce, we're doing baptism orientation in a few weeks. Is that something you feel like you still want to make it to? He said, I'll be there. He was there. During the orientation, I talked to a broad age range and children and adults as well, and I lay out the story of Jesus, and I explain and use a lot of different visual aids and things to show how the story of Jesus has come across the water and the great pond and into America, and how it eventually comes to Ligonier, and all the candidates now are being invited to attach themselves to this story, to link up with the chain, the legacy of the gospel, and to declare themselves a follower of Christ. And I could just see a firm resolve kind of settle on his countenance, and I kind of looked over at his bride-to-be, and she's grinning from ear to ear, and I know this is going to be great. And well, just last week after church, he comes up and says, hey, baptism is next week. And I said, yeah. I said, baptism is next week. And he said, you know what? I can't wait. He said, hey, by the way, I've got people coming, and they might like take up like 3 rows. Is that okay? And I'm like, Bruce, dude, is that okay? Come on, man. They can come every week. In fact, all of you are invited to fill up 3 rows every Sunday. That would be awesome. Okay? No prohibition there. All right? So I said, yeah, man, bring as many. Have them all come. We'll celebrate it together. We're going to have a wonderful time. Well, he said something at the end of that conversation. And he said, you know, there's a song, Amazing Grace, that's really meant a lot to me over the years. And it really just kind of tells my story. And he said, I was just wondering about that and how that might all tie into the day. And so I got to thinking about that too. And you know that Amazing Grace was written by John Newton, who was a former slave trader. And he needed the Lord in his life in a desperate kind of way. In fact, by the age of 17, his world was the open sea. He did a short stint in the Navy. He went AWOL. He was captured, beaten, and stripped of rank. He was shackled. He managed to get on an Africa-bound freighter, trying to get lost where God couldn't find him and nobody else could find him either. And he got involved with the Portuguese slave trade. And then things got worse. And he was at sea on March 21st, 1748. He was trying to sleep through a storm, and water began to flood the hold, and Newton and a bunch of other guys, they worked from like midnight that night to or 3 a.m. that night to noon the next day, just bailing water and pumping water as fast as they could pump it, because they were right on the brink of sinking. And it was many other days after that to finally make it to Ireland and get to a place of safety. The stormy season of life on the seas there. But he had many close calls with death in his life, but this was probably the closest. And God used all of that to speak to him and tell him it was time to get off the fence. It was time to put the flag at the top of the pole. It was time to get in the game. Because life just comes and goes. You never know about life. And boy, it was time for John Newton to make this decision. And buddy, he did. He got off the fence. He put the flag at the top of the pole. He got in the game. And he became a pastor ordained in the Church of England, 1764. He pastored a place called Olney in Buckinghamshire. And he co-wrote some songs, one with William Cooper, actually some with the poet William Cooper and others. But he wrote this hymn called Amazing Grace. And it was written to illustrate a sermon he was doing on New Year's Day in 1773. And they don't really know the music. And if you look at do some of the research on it, it's like the music is like by unknown, but the lyrics are by Newton. And perhaps his congregation chanted it that first time that they sang it. But eventually it made its way into a hymn book, and it kind of the song fell into obscurity after several years, and it kind of revived here in the States. But many feel that the song or the hymn was based on a pentatonic music scale. And a pentatonic scale is a musical scale or mode with 5 notes per octave, in contrast to a heptatonic scale or 7-note scale, which is a major and a minor scale. And I once heard an African American singer talk about this, and how the arrangement of the song was probably based on the slaves who originally sang it many years ago. And perhaps Amazing Grace was first sang in terms of a popular, people being aware of it, knowing about the song. Perhaps was first sang by slaves in the bottom of a ship that was on its way to another land. And perhaps Newton was so repentant of what he had done with his life. All the years he had flown under a different banner other than Christ. All the years he had refused to make a decision, get off the fence. All the years that he refused to get in the game. Perhaps all the remorse of all those wasted years had settled up on him, and he honored the slaves with this song, and perhaps they were the ones who sang it on a wide basis first, and they developed a melody based on what's called the pentatonic scale. In fact, I want you to watch Wintley Phipps share this, and those of you who are baptism candidates, if you would be dismissed now and go get ready for baptism. We're going to let everybody else kind of watch the finish of our story here on the video, okay? Go ahead and roll that, guys.